that's what you were in the late 30s, of these kinds of incidents around you, like the burning of the synagogue in Quebec City, or the smashing of the Adlers.
That one I had no knowledge of in Quebec City.
But the smashing of the Adler windows, when was that? Was that when the Spaniards came?
They never really.
Would there be anything in the Keneder Adler excerpt?
Would they have written about it the next day?
But I would have been too young.
Yeah. But would they have reported that in the Adler the next day, for instance, if their windows had been smashed? Yes, they would.
Yeah, but when these riots were going on, my mother just kept us away.
Yeah, for sure.
When I was 8 years old. 7 years old, 8 years old. And, but I do remember that they also went up to the Y. When they came to the Y.
The Y was at the corner of Montreal and Park Avenue.
When they got to the Y, they got to the riot started.
Well, it's going to be a fictional rendition, obviously. I'm not interested in actually finding, an actual incident that occurred and describing it retroactively. I'm interested in a metaphor for the times and, creating one. And because I know these things didn't happen, I'm not too worried about the fact that it might not have been on the 3rd of April, 1937. Sure.
You have to see a movie. Done by what's Scott's first name? Scott. Scott, the guy that did a couple of on Esther DeLille.
I don't know who this guy is. You're the one who knows this guy. I know. Some guy my father met.
Somebody made a movie?
A documentary.
For the film board, or?
No, I think I have it.
You do?
At home.
On videotape?
Yeah.
Oh, would you lend it to me? I would love to have that.
Do you know the rest of the little?
Yes, absolutely. I bet I do.
This is a whole documentary which will give you that period in the 30s.
Yes.
I'll give you all that was going on in that time. Because she writes about the whole French opposition and the fascist party here.
Marquant
It's
and all
all
those
there.
people.
It's all there.
It's all in that movie. Well, when can I borrow it?
I gotta find it.
I bet you it's in the Frenchman house.
I don't think it's there yet, but we're going up there. We're going up there to.
I see. Oh, I saw it on TV. I never saw the tape. Come on, I take it back. I know nothing. I know nothing. I'll shut up.
No, but it's, it will fill you in on this whole period.
Yes. That would be very, very useful. Very useful to me. Because there's very little. It's hard to find.
The zeitgeist.
Yes.
What was going on?
But it's very hard to find material about that period.
Gee, I'm shocked.
It's
Probably very hard to find anything relevant about this province.
probably, well,
It's like,
I'd like her to do.
what's very interesting, I'm just giving you a little tip if you're ever interested in digging way back, is that Montreal had, I think it was 6 dailies. It had 2 English language dailies, 4
Herald.
French dailies. It had the Montreal Star, the Gazette, La Presse, La
There was
Patrie,
3.
Le Devoir.
There's Montreal Star, the Gazette, and the Herald.
Okay, so that's 3. And then in French you had La Presse, Le Devoir, La Patrie. No, that was later. Le Canada, and l'Action Catholique. There's 5 of them. And for something like the Spanish Civil War, which was so controversial in this province, because of course the church sided with Franco because it was the pro-Catholic church faction in Spain. Any battle that was reported, on any given day, if I wanted to get a reasonably, I wouldn't say accurate, but complex picture of what was going on over there, I had to read the microfilm of every single paper, the 3 English, which had tendencies of their own, and got their dispatches from different places. I think the Gazette got theirs from the New York Times. Star got it from somewhere else. And on the French side, you had much less of an éventail, because most of it was just, even the language they used. I mean, they used loyalist. On the English side was loyalist for the Republicans, and on the trying to remember the terms, but I mean the loaded terms. You could tell the tendency of the reporting just by the terms that they used to describe the Republicans and the fascists. There was, loyalists and loyalists, and the loyalists were the Republicans and the fascists. You had loyalists and fascists, so you had nationalists and Republicans.
Nothing changes. Journalism sucks. All the way through.
We could have a very interesting conversation on the coverage of the Iraq War. Thank God for the internet, eh? I get my war news from the internet every morning.
Yeah, like Asia Times. And you have to go to
The Guardian, The Independent,
well, but even the Brits.
The Observer.
Yeah, but the Brits also have an agenda going, right?
No, but they have a very strong opposition in the press that you just don't find in the States at all.
Right. I mean, it's like, Mr. President, where do I stand and sign up to back you and kiss your ass?
Yeah, exactly. In Britain, the press has been very critical, and they've had some real investigative journalists, who just would not give up. And Blair was furious because, he was absolutely furious at the British press, but they did their job. The BBC, I watched the BBC News every night to get a sense of what was actually going on.
The BBC journalist is questioning the entire, saving of, that.
Oh yes,
private
I have that
venture.
documentary.
You have that?
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's totally brilliant.
And what it forced the Americans to do was the one about saving Private Lynch.
Yeah.
The BBC did it. It was the whole thing was it was like Wag the Dog. I mean, it was like a.
What was that about?
You know what? Let's talk about the Keneder Adler.
The Keneder Adler.
What do you want to know about the Keneder Adler?
When did it fold?
16. Well, it went on, like my uncle gave it away as a name, and then the Canadians Congress ran it for a few years as a weekly, and the newcomers didn't want to speak Yiddish. They wanted to leave Yiddish behind in Europe and in the death camps. Yiddish was the language of the Holocaust. So Yiddish was not an important thing. Now, and that was the whole zeitgeist in Israel too.
Yes,
Hebrew is the language of the Gibur, the strong. We fought the Arabs. Look, 600,000 fought 60 million, and we won. So Hebrew was the language of the hero.
Yeah.
And Yiddish was the language of the Holocaust.
The oppressed.
Yeah, and that what happened was just now there is a whole movement in Israel to begin to understand the Ashkenazi, the European Jewish culture, because it's European Jewish culture, not the Arab Jewish culture, not the Oriental Jewish, which established the state of Israel. It didn't come, the whole philosophy, the whole ethos of the Zionist movement.
I remember Mother talking when we were young about the quarrels between the Yiddishists and the Hebraist
Oh, really?
here in
Your Zeta, our Zeta, was very angry because we were sent to the Volksschule. He was a big shot.
Jewish people.
He was responsible for the United Talmud Torahs. It was my grandfather. There was every little synagogue had a little Talmud Torah, student of the Torah.
Yes.
Every synagogue. And my grandfather said, "This is ridiculous." So he got money from Sir Mortimer B. Davis, and he called for meetings, and he brought all these diverse little groups together, and he united them and called it the United Talmud Torahs. And he raised the money to build their building on St. Joseph and Marianne, not Marianne, Jean Mons.
that's right, Jean
It was on the northwest corner of Jean Mons and St. Joseph. And and what happened is he got a pledge of $50,000 from Sir Mortimer B. Davis for the building of the school. And Sir Mortimer B. Davis died, and it wasn't in his will. So he then went, and by that time the Bronfmans had moved into Montreal. So he went to the Bronfmans, and he solicited the Bronfmans, and he got $50,000 from them. But they put a stipulation on it that their lawyer had to be on the board to supervise that the money wasn't ill spent. And their lawyer was Lazarus Phillips. So he came onto the board of the United Talmud Torahs. And but my mother, who was more of a, so this was like an elitist, the Bronfmans, the moneyed class.
Yeah.
My wife, whose father was a businessman, owned a dress factory, she was sent to the to the Talmud Torah. My mother, who came from a working class and was a pioneer woman, and she sent us to the Folklore Jewish
But because we always spoke Yiddish at
and
home.
we always spoke Yiddish, and she felt she was a friend of Heikman's, and that was her teacher.
When my mother arrived in Canada in 1913, she was a young teenager from Russia who knew nothing but Russian. Instead of going to the English school to learn English, she went first to a Jewish school to learn Yiddish so that she could talk to all the other Jews around. And then afterwards, she went into the regular public school to get.
And that school was just down over here on Duluth Street. We can walk over there and I'll show you where that school was. The Parrot Schule was just down over here. And so those teachers that she had, which was the Nationale Radikale Schule, which was the national radical schools and of the working class, you see. And but then some of the teachers started what they called the Jewish People's Schools. So that's where, and my sister was the first class that went the full 7 years of public school.
Yes, I was in the first graduating class. We were 7 students who graduated that year.
But at that
Actually, what happened was when I had finished 3rd grade, there were only 6 children who were in the 4th grade, finishing 4th grade at that time, and the school did not consider it enough to support a class and a teacher and whatever expenses. And I skipped from 3rd grade to 5th grade so that I made a 7th in that class, and they were able to say, well, now we can have a teacher, hire a teacher. And we were in the vanguard, the others
And teachers
followed
got
after.
paid very high wages.
Really?
Oh yeah, they got about to $15 a month for teaching. It was high wages.
Was that high wages at the time? That was high wages at the time?
No, and sometimes they didn't get paid because of money. You had to pay the students paid every month. It was $1 or $2 a month. How many? $2.
But for our mother,
But they did it out of love. They did it out of a commitment to pass on a culture. To pass
mind
on.
you, we did learn Hebrew as well,
Yeah.
but not as a first language in the school.
Not as a
We
language
had-
of speech, it was a
No,
language of
it
study.
was to read. We did not to speak. No, we read the Bible in Hebrew, but we had the full curriculum of the Protestant schools plus Yiddish and Hebrew. So there was no time for the extras like gym and art and all of those.
But we used to have a
Plus we have
field
a long
day.
tradition of the Jewish athletes.
And we also, one day a year, we used to go by bus
To
out
St.
to
Helens
Selms
Island.
Island. That was a field day. And we used to have sack races.
That's right.
and
That
we
was
used to-
our gymnastics for the year. But we learned the 4 languages, of course, when French was introduced in grade 5 or 4 or whatever. And we had the 4 languages that we had to study.
That's right, because this was Sheila mentioned this to me that you were all fluently, you could speak French fluently,
Well,
or that your
with me,
grandfather did.
My grandfather didn't, but
No?
I learned whatever French I learned in school, which was just, the Protestant school board in high school. The teachers didn't know how to speak French properly. We knew a lot of grammar, but we couldn't talk. And I had, of course, a year at McGill too. But I practiced my French when I married Benno because his family in Istanbul were educated in French. And my mother-in-law's first letters to me came in French, and I had to reply. And I remember one infamous letter I sent her when we were furnishing our first apartment, and I wanted to tell her about the beautiful draperies I bought, and I wrote her about mes drapeaux.
Les drapeaux.
It was only later. So, but and then they eventually came to Montreal. His parents came in 1958, I think, and with practice, I was able to speak with them. My father-in-law was not that fluent in French. It was more of a late acquired language for him. He understood it, but he was Spanish speaking. He was a descendant of Spanish Jews. And his mother tongue was Ladino, which is the Spanish of out of Spain in 1492. And I picked that up.
It's true, that if you learn more than one language when you're small,
Yes,
you acquire a facility for languages.
especially
without
when you get
Francophone.
into the Romance languages. If you know French, you
Yes.
can pick up the Spanish
Italian,
or
Spanish,
I have a guy working for me, a bright guy, and I'm trying to teach him English because for him to be really helpful for me, he has to be able to commute in French and English. It's like carré or something. I mean, the guy.
Tête de pioche.
Here, Sandy was a witness.
You said 3 yesterday.
Three.
You know how to say 3.
Trois, yeah, 3, yeah.
But it's very hard to acquire a language later in life, unless your brain was attuned to different ways of when you're small.
And I've sent him, I paid for his classes, I paid for him to go. And he goes last winter.
Okay, Dad, Tomatora and JPS, your grandfather. So that's another conversation.
Well, but my grandfather, who did want us to go to the Hebrew school, to the Talmud
that's what
Torah,
we were saying.
was
Very
was
upset.
very proud of my Yiddish poetry and printed
Yes.
it in
that
the
you
kind of-
published in the Adler.
Yes. So, and we always communicate.
The Adler were all the old.
Yes, it's at the Canadian Jewish Congress, and it's at the Jewish Public
The
Library.
Jewish Public Library in Côte d'Ivoire, yeah.
No, it's
No?
on Côte St. Catherine.
Why do
at
you
the
say
corner
that?
of West.
But it's in the sort of Côte
Why are you
d'Ivoire area,
saying
isn't it?
no?
Because Pierre Anctil
Yeah.
said that everything, a much more extensive collection, is at the library that's at the corner of Esplanade and Mount Royal.
Which library?
There's a library there?
Yeah, that was
The
it's now
old-
the university. That's the old
It's like
Jewish
that.
Public
The
Library.
old Jewish Public Library, yeah.
No,
Some
it's the
totally-
University of Montreal's library.
That is not the University of Montreal's library.
It belongs to you. Or wait, it's part of the
No,
library.
Dad. It's part of some
Some,
Quebec
yeah.
chain of libraries.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a
It's the
complete,
Quebec.
And they have a
provincial
complete collection there.
according to Pierre Antil, he said that the best collection is on microfiche or microfilm.
Oh, microfiche.
At that library.
Yeah, but they.
Librairie Nationale Québec, or I don't know what it's called, but it's
Is this an offshoot of the famous Samso Behind the Times? I've been holed up in this book for 5 years. I practically don't know anything of what's been going on, but years ago, Lise Bissonnette was appointed the head of the Nouvelle Librairie Nationale.
Yes.
Is it a branch of that? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and they're moving it all. It's all going to move down to Barrie and St. Catherine.
Right.
To the new Bibliothèque Nationale.
Bibliothèque Nationale.
But in the meantime, if you go down the block,
Because it's
to
all on
Esplanade
the-
and Montreal,
because it's on the fish.
Right.
It's on the microfiche. But they have the originals.
Who has the originals?
The Canadian Jewish Congress.
Why would Pierre Antil tell everybody in this audience who's Jewish that you can get a better?
You get better reproduction
No.
because the paper is also. Don't forget paper.
I think that what he said was that
Well, I'll check it out.
there's sections that are missing in the Canadian Jewish Congress archives. Something like that.
So it's
Maybe
more
I'm making
complete.
that up. But I think he said that it's more complete at that library.
Could be.
So finish the part about your grandfather Tomator and
Well,
JPS.
he was quite upset because he wanted Bubby to send us to the Talmud Torah, and she said no.
Grandma said no.
Well, he was no. It wasn't just a question of Hebrew. This was his pride and joy.
Yeah.
When he
But
died,
some of my cousins went there.
and they didn't finish.
Harvey?
Harvey did.
Yeah.
Harvey was at school with my wife, with Kay.
Yeah.
Harvey and
Did Leif go?
Merle,
Well, Merle came later.
but she came and she studied at Talmud Torah. But
And then worked for the folk show.
And we all went to folk school. His kids all went to the folk school.
Not mine. They went to the regular school board schools. Because my husband had no allegiance to the Yiddish. My two sons studied for bar mitzvah, and that's about it.
yeah. So do you want to go and walk down here? I'll show you where the
Yes.
Come.
Certainly. Let's do that.
But this is where the carriage trailer used to be. You see, they had a little yard. They had a little yard.
Oh, yeah. That was the first British school.
I think that must have been a synagogue down there. Look at that building. I wouldn't be surprised if it was
like it.
Eh?
Possibly, I
Then
don't
they
know.
have all
Maybe
these
it's a church,
lanes.
or else it's a church.
All these back lanes.
See, at one time, don't forget, everyone owned over.
Here?
Yeah, sure.
There were
Because
no
you,
cars.
You had no cars, so
Really?
you did deliveries on a horse. I remember when we were kids.
Bread
And the milkman.
came with
Yeah,
with
sure.
horse
Remember the old
and buggy.
trams? Remember the golden
St.
trams?
Lawrence.
Oh,
St.
yes, it
Lawrence.
used to
That-
pass.
The golden one. There
The
was one that
50
was all golden. I remember
Well, the
that.
golden one was the.
That was
The
the
sightseeing one,
observation
wasn't it?
tram. Observation. We're more interested in the history of The one that's now, what's the name of the one
The street wasn't far from here. I was
Well, this
The
is
Bouillon
this the
used to be
Bouillon?
called Kadir Street. But they lived on Keju, as they said.
Keju.
Keju.
The
Keju Street.
brothels there.
Called Jean
Jean Mance.
Jean Nance.
No, I say.
I never heard that one. Villeneuve was Villeneuve.
And Lippe was?
Jalepi. Jalepi? Sure.
I heard Lippe from Uncle Howie.
You're on differently from
I heard, and Howard Astor told me that they used to call Jean Gina Mancy.
No, I never heard that. Jean Mance, yeah. And Villeneuve.
Jean Nance.
Jean Mance. No, I heard Gina Mancy.
That's like Villemard.
It is Villemard, isn't it?
Villemard, but Villemard.
Villemard. It's one word, Villemard.
The other one was the streetcars. The streetcars they used to go Avant Guernica.
Avant Guernica, yeah, really?
Start doing something. Tickle 'em.
Yeah, I remember the streetcars, but just barely because they all disappeared when I was 5 or 6.
My father used to say
In the basement. Warren's restaurant used to peel their potatoes and carrots. They had a machine, Hobart peeler, and the guy used to sit in a chair, and he'd put the potatoes in the peeler, and it would brr with the water pouring down, and then he'd take them out and pick out the eyes of the potatoes, and cut them, and put them in a pail of water, and bring them into Horn's restaurant. And he'd sit there for hours and hours just peeling potatoes and carrots in the basement over here.
Of that little building.
Yeah.
now you told me something that I've never heard before.
It's a funny little building.
Of this little.
Is it connected to the big one?
Yeah, it's connected.
The author was in there.
Yes. Ours was on that ground floor.
406 and this 407.
Come.
I'm gonna have to go because I promised my